So what I want to give you here is a quick and dirty tutorial on how to start playing Europa Universalis 4. There's a lot of different ways to play it depending on what kind of nation you are, where you're starting off. If you're England, Castile, Portugal, you'll probably want to be a colonial nation and settle the new world. If you're Genoa, Provence, Venice, you might be a trade empire and dominate the Mediterranean, or even project sea power to the Caribbean to take your rival's power and bring it back home to your land, becoming a small but very rich, very powerful nation. If you're the Ottomans, you might be a land empire, you might be a trade empire. Austria, starting off at the beginning of the game, Austria is the leader of the Holy Roman Empire. This collection of small nations here votes on an emperor, making Austria the most powerful nation starting off in the game, able to raise the largest armies, but also very strong troops. So how you play the game is going to depend a lot on who you are, where you're starting. If you're Japan, you obviously want to unify Japan. We're going to start the game as Castile. The first thing you're going to want to do anytime you start a new game is set your rivals. The rivalry system really drives the course of history throughout the rest of the game. Who your rivals are can change a lot depending on random chances at the start of the game. I've started this video 3 times now. The first time, France was my rival. The second time, France and England were both set as rivals. And this time, England and not France is set as a rival. So, you'll want to assess the situation. France, I want France to be my friend. I don't want to go to war with France. They're a constant threat to Spain at the beginning of the game. Usually I would want to be an ally with England. Starting off, England is allied with Portugal. Portugal is a good friend of Spain, and so you can form a trio friendship. This alliance between me and Portugal will put odds between Portugal and England and me and Portugal, because we don't like each other and we have a common friend. Now, when you're Castile, you're destined to marry into Aragon, and Aragon becomes part of your faction. Aragon also controls Naples. You can also get part of Burgundy through a marriage bargain, and so you'll want to avoid war with Aragon as much as possible, which is unfortunate when they want to go to war with you. But you can at least allay that by improving your relations. So we'll start off by looking at the controls, and the controls are all access to your country, whatever, this sigil, I guess. So all of these buttons here are just there to confuse you. Now what they're really there for is to show you that there's something that you should address, and they all refer to different things within this main menu. So this the first button shows you your king and your heir. Now my current king is pathetic, and his heir is apparently a vegetable. This is more or less, well, it's not random at the start of the game, but it's random as the rest of the game occurs, although you can pick kings sometimes through different events. Advisors, there's 3 different stats here, points categories are administrative power, diplomatic, and military. And your king gives you some points of those. And your advisors give you the rest. But early in the game, it's very expensive to hire advisors. They, especially high-powered advisors, are multiplicatively more expensive. So it's 4 times more expensive to get 2 power than it is to get 1. However, some of these people can also offset their own costs. This guy has a production efficiency bonus. So I make 3.5 off of production, he'd produce 0.35 from his bonus, and he costs 1. So he's a good offset to his own cost. And same with this military land maintenance modifier. He's going to save me 0.61, and he only costs 1. He's a good deal to up my technology at a small cost. However, you overinvest in your advisors and you're going to become bankrupt. Becoming bankrupt is the worst thing that can happen to you, really. You do not want to go into debt in this game. Government is the next tab. And this is more culture than government. When you start conquering areas, you'll find different culture groups. Now, Basque is part of the Spanish culture group. So they get less of a penalty than, say, Francian or Gascon or some of the other culture groups. So you might want to... Francian is a large culture group. If you subjugate France, you might want to make them an accepted culture group. Meanwhile, if it's a small group, Ossetians or something like that, you might want to just convert their culture to your culture. And that's what this menu is. It'll also show your national modifiers when you start having events happen and making choices. Diplomacy. This is the first thing I'll want to do in any game, is set your rivals. England wants to be my rival. I might as well just embrace that. England is my rival. That'll bring me closer to France because I'm sure they're in a rivalry. This will cause animosity between you for a long time until that rivalry is broken. And if you can defeat your rival, you'll get a lot of power projection points for that. But that's a bit beyond the scope of this tutorial. Aragon, no, I don't want Aragon. I want to try to be friends eventually with Aragon. Economy. Root out corruption should always be as much as you can afford. Army maintenance, I used to try to cheap out on army maintenance, especially early game, and save some money, make a stockpile. It's just not worth it. The weaker your army is, the more not only your rivals but also your friends will start to have less respect for you. So it's just better to fund everybody. You don't want to make yourself appear weak and then get invaded while your army is at half power. Raise war taxes is a good way to make some money when you're at war. Take a loan is something you never want to do, and if you do, you want to do it as little as possible and pay it back as soon as you can. It starts increasing your inflation. You want to keep your inflation as low as possible. I like to, every time it gets to 2%, lower it down or use an event or something like that to control inflation as much as possible. Now, trade. I'm not an expert in trade. You'll probably want another video if you want to get into that area too much. But we'll go to the trade node map. Trade takes place in nodes where you have a certain amount of trade power, which increases depending on how many provinces, markets, and trade ships you have in that area, as well as merchants. You can send merchants. Now, merchants, when you send them, can either collect or divert trade from those nodes. And which one is the better choice? I don't know. Only through experimentation do I figure that out. So that might be something you look for more information on. Building trade ships. I've got some of them right here. Barks, light ships are trade ships. They increase your trade power in a node. Go to mission, protect trade. And send them off to protect trade in whatever node you choose. Technology, the next tab. You improve your technology through your administrative, military, and diplomatic powers. Once you get to technology level 5, you can start building actual buildings to increase your economy, and not until then. And you'll also unlock ideas, the next group. But let's go back for a second. There's a tricky little button here, show institutions. This is one that I didn't find for a long time. The Renaissance occurs in 1450, a scripted event in northern Italy. Where the rest occur depend on how much that area is developed. It's pretty much random. and you get different bonuses when it does occur in your territory. When these events do occur, they start spreading out from their country of origin, and they cost money to embrace depending on how much they bled into your country. They offer you these small set of benefits, and until you get those, you start losing. It costs you more to get technology each year. Ideas, once you get to administrative level 5, you can unlock an ideas, and this is really what makes each faction different. So this is what will make you a trade nation, or a land empire, or a colonial empire. In fact, you need exploration ideas to become a colonial empire. You need the quest for the New World to get explorers and conquistadors to explore those areas. Now, this is a lot of reading. I'll let you look over it yourself, but just know that this is really the heart of the game right here. When you unlock 2 of those idea sets, you can also combine them to make a policy, which is an expensive but powerful national modifier. Right here. Missions, you fill a mission, they give you a certain small bonus. You can get by without them, but they do give you good bonuses. Solidify papal relations is a great choice when you start off, and it's always there. The reason why is the papacy gives you bonuses. So I'm going to improve relations. If I'm good friends with the Pope, or even better if I am the Pope, or control the Pope, I get papal influence, which I can invest in becoming the Pope, or controlling the Pope, or in creating more tax, more manpower, creating stability, legitimacy, and all sorts of great benefits from being a Catholic country with good relations with the Pope. The national decisions are just conquer a certain area, have a certain amount of units, or have a certain technology, and you can get a small bonus. Or some of them are forming a country, creating Japan, I think, is under a national decision once you unify the land. Stability, you always want to keep your stability high. I like to keep mine at 2 and let events push it to 3. It gets more expensive as you boost it higher. Having it low, you'll get less tax money, you'll get rebels, it's just not good. War exhaustion's self-evident. Goes up when you're at war, goes down when you're not, and you'll figure it out. All the rest of this, that's something that you're on your own for. Religion, when you conquer an area, different religions will pop up here for you to convert. Having too little religious unity will cause problems, so you want to convert people to your religion, or have a society that accepts different religions, which is a possibility, a humanitarian idea set. Military, the different unit types with different combat abilities. It just change slightly depending on whether you're on defense or attack. It's a good place to see if you have mercenaries that you've forgotten about somewhere on this tiny little map here that are just draining away your upkeep. Like forts cost a lot of money to maintain. You might consider mothballing them, although you don't want to have an enemy take a mothballed fort and then fortify it and then have to retake it in your own territory. And again, it makes you weak, lowers your war score, so it's a definite trade-off. I often delete my forts early on and build them once I can build better forts. This is something that I had a big problem with my first playthrough, is if I just declare war, I get -2 stability from no casus belli, and I start with war exhaustion. Aggressive expansion penalty as well, which makes everybody more hostile toward me. Okay, so what I would want to do instead is diplomacy, build spy network. And once this gets to a certain size, I can fabricate a claim and then declare a war without that penalty. I'll say there's rebels in an area, and you park troops there, and they'll quell the rebels. Okay, but I invade an area, there's loot in that province, and I'll devastate it while my troops are there. So I forage, like Sun Tzu said, forage on the enemy. So every month my troops are there, they'll take money and they'll cause devastation, making the enemy less willing to maintain the war. That's one of the really cool things about Europa, is they're just such a detailed simulation. The more you look into it, the more subtleties there are.